Hey, I'm Oriana. Let me tell you a story. I said in one of my earlier videos that the moment I was sitting in the hospital shortly after being informed that Jeff was gone, I was haunted by images of endless Saturdays just stuck in our little condo that we lived in at the time, alone with 3 kids, with no help and nowhere to go and just totally overwhelmed. And I was so intimidated by the idea of being alone with my kids. That was something that continued to be a challenge for me. Well, to be honest, until this day. It's been now about 3.5 years. There's been an evolution of that, and my fear and discomfort has ebbed and flowed and evolved and changed a lot over this time, but it's been a constant theme. The idea of being one parent alone with 3 young kids continues to be a challenge in real life, but just a challenging idea. I feel like I'm almost convinced that it's challenging and therefore it is, The moments that I find the most success in my solo parenting is when I step outside of the perception and the idea of it being challenging and just be in the moment, and it helps me remember and realize and see and experience and understand it doesn't have to be hard. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of physical exertion, it's a lot of conversation, but it doesn't have to be hard. I don't have to think of it as hard. It just is what it is. One thing that helped me get to this place of consciousness in terms of being alone with my kids was the first time I traveled alone with them, and not alone in the sense that I wasn't with other people, but alone without a partner. Because at the end of the day, if I'm traveling with another family, it's still me who's responsible for my 3 humans. Those parents are responsible for their humans. We're all going to help each other, but at the end of the day, it's me and my kids, right, that I have to look out for, and that was really intimidating. And about 6 months after Jeff died, my best friend in the world said, "Hey, we're going on a cruise next month and you should come." And I was like, hell freaking no. Then I went home and she kept sending me pictures of the boat and pictures of the amenities and the beaches and the places we'd visit. And then she was like, "Hey, also there's kids club." And that's what got me thinking, like, oh, so I could actually do this and actually, for the first time since losing my husband, have a moment to myself because there's free childcare on the boat. And then I thought about why it scared me so much, the idea of traveling with them. I mean, the list is endless. At this point in time, my kids were 4, 3, and 6 months old. Any of you parents out there, you know what that looks like. So my thoughts were just racing, like, what if the 3-year-old has a tantrum? What if the 4-year-old runs off to play with something and I'm holding the other 2? Who's gonna chase him? If I'm pulling luggage, who's holding their hands? I literally don't have enough hands for the 3 kids themselves, never mind add baggage to that. What if they cry on the plane? What if everybody on the plane hates me? What if they all cry at the same time? How do we go pee on the plane? What if I'm holding the baby and the baby's sleeping and one of the other kids has to pee? What if I have to pee? How do people do this? It just seemed completely unconceivable how I would travel with my kids. And then I took a few deep breaths and I thought, okay, Ori, if this scares you that much, it probably means that you should just do it. Just rip the band-aid off and just do the scary thing. In principle, I knew at that time, and I'm even more convinced now, we must do the things that scare us when it's a thing that you know that you should do, right? Do you want to be the person who can travel the world with your kids, or do you want to be the person who's crippled by fear? Obviously, I don't want to be the second person. So I decided to rip off the band-aid, and I remember sitting at my kitchen counter with my laptop on FaceTime with said best friend who invited me, and I opened up the website to book the boat, and I just remember, and my sister-in-law was there, my husband's sister, and I just remember sitting there like with the clicker hovering over the book button, and I was just like, oh my god, guys, like, what am I doing? And they were like, come on, Ori, you can do it. And I clicked book. And it was so terrifying, but also exhilarating. And then 1 month later, the trip was upon us. I lived alone with the kids in a condo. I packed all the suitcases the night before. And then I started thinking, okay, our flight's at 6 a.m. We have to leave at 4 or whatever. I have to get 3 sleepy kids and the luggage down to the car in the parking garage, which is like, an elevator ride plus a 5-minute walk. And I'm picturing, the kids' luggage and my luggage and the baby in the car seat, and like, how am I going to do this by myself at 4 in the morning? So the night before, I got someone to watch the kids just so that I could take the luggage down to the car ahead of time with enough planning and leaving the stuff upstairs that we needed for our carry-ons and for our clothing and brushing our teeth, all that stuff. I loaded the car up the night before. At 4 in the morning, I woke up, got dressed, gently woke the kids up and just picked them up from their beds and placed them in the stroller that barely fit in my little space by the front door of the condo. Put the baby in the car seat, changed her diaper, fed her, all that stuff, and left and got to the car, loaded them all in. Luckily, even though they were tired, nobody was tantruming, so that was a blessing. I was just like shaking and nervous the whole time. Okay, so here we are. Got 2 plus 1 sleepy baby, but it is 5:05 in the morning and we are right on schedule for our 7:45 flight. We're on schedule. Who would have thought? But I was most nervous about getting my 5 and 3-year-old out of bed, but they are so excited. It wasn't even an issue. And the baby actually woke up for a feeding, so the universe is conspiring in my favor today. I'm gonna load up the car. Hopefully I can fold up this new travel stroller. And wish me luck. This amazing stroller just for the trip, where one of the older kids could lie down and sleep. The car seat could clip into the other side. It was a double stroller, and then the oldest could stand on like a skateboard in between my arms. So that's how I wheeled them through the airport. So I think I pushed that with one hand and pulled my luggage like this in the other hand. With a backpack, I shoved all their luggage under the stroller, and that's how I walked through the airport and got to the gate. We arrived safely at the airport. I hurt myself getting the luggage out. It hit my ankle and it hurts, but it's okay. Carter's got his skateboard. The baby is on her adapter that I don't know how I'm gonna get on the plane. And there's Marley. Okay. Bye, car. I'll see you in a week.
Bye, poop car.
My friends there. So my friends are a couple with 2 kids. I beat them to the airport. So I got through like security and baggage and all that by myself with the kids, which was something I had never done before. I don't even remember it. It was like I blacked it out. It was so hard and intimidating, but I did it. And I remember we finally got to the gate and it was like, and then I just saw Starbucks like gleaming in the corner, and it's now 6 in the morning, 5 something in the morning. I haven't had coffee yet, and I'm just like, oh my god, like I really need a coffee. So there's a long ass lineup, and I'm like, how am I gonna do this? I can't bring these kids and this luggage and the stroller in the lineup. It's just crazy. So there were 2 chairs directly across from Starbucks. So I sat them on the chairs. I locked the stroller. I'd be a few feet away, but easily visible. I could call to them from the distance where the lineup was. So I'm like, okay guys, sit here. Here's your iPad. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. If anyone touches you, scream. I will be watching you. I'll be right back. This is how badly I needed my coffee, okay? And this woman, this angel out of nowhere, overheard this conversation taking place. And she was like, oh honey, I'm going to take up your place in line. I'll call you when it's time. And then you come, I'll watch your kids and we'll switch. And I was like, oh yes, please. Thank you. That's amazing. And at that moment, I realized something that has always been true, was true at that moment, and will continue to be true. There is always help. No matter where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, how alone you think you are, there are always people who will be willing to help you. You can look for them, make eye contact with them. Don't be afraid to ask. They're there, I promise. There are people willing to help everywhere. And I have found people like that everywhere I go all the time. And I've really learned to ask for help. And that's something that you need to do as a person in my position. You cannot be afraid to ask for help, both from those who love you and know you, and also from strangers. And I promise there are a lot of good-hearted, kind people out there who want to help. So at the time of boarding, my friends weren't there yet, but they were close. They were like coming through, but I had to get on the plane by myself. So I wheeled the stroller up to the entrance of the plane. I had to take all the kids out. I put the baby in the carrier, so she's on me like here. I still have my carry-on, and then the 2 other kids had these little wheelie carry-ons. My middle child wasn't able or willing to pull hers, and I couldn't manage everything with the hands I had. So I had to actually like abandon a bag by the door of the plane and go to my seat. And there was nobody available to help me in that moment. And I'm thinking, so even when I get to my seat, I drop my kids off. Am I going to leave my kids to go back and get that bag? Like, how's this going to work? So I didn't really have a plan. I was like, oh, well, I have to get that bag somehow. Hopefully I get that bag. So I waddle with all these kids and all this stuff to the seat, and I'm just like apologizing everywhere, and the kids are kind of complaining. And we get to the seat. I put bags up top and bags under, and I kind of sit down. The baby's still on me, and I'm feeling just kind of cramped and overwhelmed. I'm like, okay. And I look up and I see my best friend walking towards me, carrying the bag that I had left behind. And in that moment, I was just like, everything's gonna be okay. You're doing it, Ori. You're doing it. This is happening. I don't really remember the plane ride too much. I know that I kept them busy with all kinds of sticker books and coloring books that were new, iPads, and the baby miraculously breastfed and slept on me most of the flight. I'll be honest with you, the rest of the trip wasn't easy. And it was a boat, right? So it wasn't like we got there and we were done. It was like rental car, driving around a city I didn't know, checking into hotels and boarding the boat, and just, it was a lot. It was really a lot. But all I can say is that I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad that I did something that scared me the most. When I got back, I was just like, if I can travel to another country alone with my kids, I can literally do anything. And before that trip, I wouldn't even take them to the grocery store by myself. Like just me and the three of them, I refused. I would always get someone to watch my kids so that I could get groceries. I mean, after traveling to another country with them, I was like, what's Longo's got on this? Like nothing. And it just showed me how strong I am and how much I can do when I just forge ahead and just look the devil in the eye, and hope you can do it too. And I know you can. And that's my story. This episode was brought to you by Grief to Growth by Oriana.